as children grow, if they're using technology appropriately, then it's fine. But overuse can have impact on their mental well-being, on their emotional well-being, on their spiritual well-being, and on their physical well-being.
There's the issues of sometimes of some children being overstimulated, which is not in their best interest. There are other issues of children being frightened or anxieties arousing, in relation to what they're watching.
Everything has to be used with wisdom, with that balance, that mizan Allah put on earth, that balance, that equilibrium.
There was a story about, a couple of children who bought a rabbit, and they were looking online on how to feed and take care of a bunny. And they came across all sorts of inappropriate and pornographic images, which was actually very traumatizing for them.
There can be problems or consequences as a result of unrestricted use, primarily by sort of way of affecting that child's growth and development, where they really need that time to re-energize and to then be able to participate through the course of their day. And it may affect their grades and their future potential. It may also affect their ability to participate in social activities such as sports.
There is what I call the boiled frog syndrome. The theory is that if you put a frog in boiling water, they tend to jump out and save themselves. But when you put a frog in cold water and turn up the temperature very slowly, then what happens is that the frog doesn't realize that the temperature is rising, and then they boil themselves to death. This is a very good metaphor for how inappropriate content impacts our souls. We may not even recognize how our values are being compromised.
There's lots of exposures that might be considered inappropriate, whether those are sexual exposures, violence, aggression, substance use. That's a conversation that needs to be had.
You would have to introduce the checks and balances by teaching them the kinds of things, again, the values of the family, the ethical values of the family, what they consider right and wrong, combining that with monitoring it.
In as much as you want to be telling them to do things, you have to listen to them why they want to use these things and support them. Say, yes, you want to watch sports, you want to do this, support them. So when they see that you're supporting them, not always, objecting their choices, they can raise that level of trust.
You being able to have an open conversation with them. And what I mean by open conversation is a very sort of non-threatening environment in which you ask them questions about what they see the use is doing for them as children, and they may explain to you that it's a way for them to connect with other friends, to play video games.
So it's not a one-way lecture or a sermon about, what they should and should not be doing, because we can only really have influence over our children if we understand them.
Building in the skills of the children feeling free to speak to the parents and just with questions, I saw this, what is that, and so forth. Building that into the family exchanges would be very valuable.
Inviting them to know that their technology will not be taken away from them if they encounter problems, and that it's an opportunity to learn and not an opportunity to be restricted.
These are the risks of engaging with digital devices. These are the benefits. And having that conversation with a child really involves putting that out in the open and really highlighting to the child and sharing with them that there is a balance that can be met. And generally, children that are 6 to 7 years of age are still having difficulty with that. It's really when we get to above 7 where a parent is able to have that conversation.
Without that ability to discern between what is right or wrong, to distinguish between the right or wrong, even adults cannot actually make the right decision.
Role modeling is significant in all facets of parenting, but technology use is so important because adults are just as guilty of loving their technology as children are.
Come up with a plan that, we are going to have some sacred times and some sacred spaces. So for example, the phone will never be on the dinner table.
Having a technology-free zone. So maybe there's a family room that doesn't have a television in it, where there are activities that people engage in but aren't technology-based.
The family agreeing upon times of the day, for example, meal times, or if there's a physical activity, an outing that's going to be happening where they decide we're going to put our phones or our tablets on hold.
Children who eat together with their parents tend to have less eating disorders. They tend to do well academically. They tend to experiment less with drugs. They tend to delay sexual activity, at an appropriate age. So there are many benefits that research categorically shows that eating together has.
Physical activity, playing a board game together, engaging in an activity such as cooking, there are these other avenues where there is growth that's happening. And the parents really have to be able to sort of show that in their day-to-day.
Limited access, certain hours of the day, and also based on rewards. If you do your homework, then you can use the tablet. If you don't do your homework, you can't use. So the parents have to have the tablets, they have to have the system of checking in and checking out.
Half an hour before we go to bed, we will make sure that all our technology is put to bed before we go to bed.
There are resources that are available online that allow a family to gauge what the content might be on a particular website. There are parental locks on a variety of different tools or gadgets that can also be used, and that the parents can, again, inform the child that this is something that they're doing in case that question comes up.
It is a good idea to put some sort of filters on the screen, but filters themselves may lull the parents into thinking that their children are safe. But by middle school, most children have learned how to navigate around the filters.
These choices are personal choices, but they certainly relate to how the family is raising the children as well.
It's really important to follow up on the plan. So after a couple of weeks, come back, start with what's been working. So tell the children, or tell each other even, appreciate how everyone's been making an effort. This is where we have done well, and what else do we need to do? What do we need to do differently?
Hands-on is the big difference between watching, which in many ways is passive, moving to a more active state. And I would be a big, devotee of that kind of thing.
Encouraging youth to learn different mediums and create their own material, whether they're sharing it virtually or not, getting those kinds of skills.
So they could take a still camera or a motion camera or a similar device and use it out in the outdoors. Maybe even takeoffs, and create something from that. That could be quite exciting, and it gives the children, I think, a motivation to do it.
Activities that are recreational outside, that are physical activities, reading books that are not on a screen.
Playdates, getting them together with other children. And you could always have your home while the playdate is happening, a technology-free zone.
I have noticed that if we come up with our old games, where there is like trivias, activities, physical, movements, they love it. I find that the children would leave any device just to have these kinds of games.
On family vacations, it is a really good idea to leave technology behind. We can use that almost as an opportunity to detox, to reset our relationship with technology, because again, the nature of it is that it is addictive, not only for children, but many, many parents are having the same issues. Most social media platforms are restricted to age 13 and above. Before they have their own account, they can go with you, visit with you to the social media platform. You can show them things that are of concern as well as things that are healthy.
Parents have tact and social skills and problem-solving skills that children haven't developed yet cognitively. And without those, children are not going to be as safe online. So if parents assume that they don't have this competency and knowledge, they're going to shy away from contributing what they do know to their children. And that's a real risk.
A lot of the information that a child might share or might access to may vary depending on what the privacy policies are of a particular outlet, such as Facebook or Twitter. And so it's important to know that.
There's some concepts such as digital citizenship or internet etiquette, which is sometimes referred to as netiquette, these things allow discussions around how do you treat people online and how do you want to be treated online, and encourages children to consider what they're posting before they do.
The very values that you tell them when they go to school or they choose friends are the same values when you talk about access to the internet world.
Children need to be taught as soon as they are accessing the internet in any way that their personal information such as date of birth, where they live, which school they go to, which city they live in, all of those things should not be disclosed. Sometimes when children post pictures online, some software will automatically say what their location is. So the child should be taught to turn that off so that when they're posting pictures, it doesn't tell everyone where they're at. Ideally, you should spend some time with them on that platform just to navigate it. If you have some awareness of what they're doing online, then inshallah they should be fine.